Shalom, family. Welcome once again to this portion of teaching that we carry on every evening before the Shabbat day comes in with one of my teachers, Nasik, Zurishaddai Yehudah, one of the teachers from the original BINAH King, located in Brooklyn, New York, under the leadership of Nasik YAH, the late Nasik YAH. And as he does every week, he highlights portions from the previous week. And being that last week we didn't have a solid portion because of the holy day falling on the Shabbat day, that holy day being Yom Teruah, Nasik will be going over the day, the significance of Yom Teruah, what it means to us, taking us through different understandings and meanings, how different people might observe it, and what is the beauty of the day and the things that we could get out of the day. So giving glory to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob first and foremost, and thanking you for being with us once again, Nasik. How are you?
Okay, great. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. I'd like to first of all give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and due respect to the platform I'm privileged to be on, which is D.C.B, the leadership of Chief Prince Jeriel. Chief Uzal was hosting and taking a busy young man, taking the time out of his day. And, I like to say, to the brothers and sisters, just listen out there. Hopefully, I can contribute something to my purpose is not to change your viewpoint, but give you another point of view to view certain things. With that, I'll say, Adonai Septati Takopi, Yagi Tiatheka, O Lord, open my lips and my mouth should declare that praise. I'll be speaking on what they refer to as Yom Teruah. Most people that follow different teachings from various congregations. I looked at myself about 5 different congregations this week. So I looked at some of the brothers from D.C.B platform and Chief Uz and some Car. I looked at Hanasi Zipporah and his son did an excellent job in Shema Yisrael. I looked at my protege, Chief Prince Hezekiah, Shirei Shemaim, that did a great job, and I looked at Rabbi Baruch, that did a great job. I even seen portions from what's that? Shomrei, Shomrei Barit with Yiftach, or Yiftach. So everybody that I seen did an excellent job. So in various points, I just have to try to highlight maybe a couple things so to make this week a little easier, being it was dealing with the portion of that particular day, the seasonal portion. And hopefully I can contribute something that could be edifying and not be too redundant. But first I'm gonna go to the source of the beginning of it. And Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and around the 23rd verse. And I want to bring out some things and relate to some things prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're ready, just that 23rd.
Leviticus, the 23rd chapter.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, before you go do that, I'd like to also make a correction from last time. It was a word I used, hataf, for children. And I made a slight error in that area because the word, when I said about drumming and toph, which is similar, the spelling is different. And it's an error that I shouldn't have made, being my oldest daughter in this way of life. Her name is Tafat, which means a dropping or a sprinkle.
Right.
And but it didn't change much of the dynamics that I spoke on at the time. Because when I'm saying your children had to be part of the covenant, and also here the reading of the Torah in the Shemitah year is that they being as little as a drop, just as precious as a drop. And so when you hear the word hataf that's used there in the scriptures as for the little ones, right, that means that their very essence is necessary to be there, even if they can't really understand or speak audibly. All right, so like I said, any mistakes have been my own, and I just want to make sure I speak on that. Now you can proceed.
From the top, Leviticus 23.
No. Leviticus 23, 23rd verse. Y'all did such a great job. Everybody did a great job. I don't need to go through all of it. Just want to focus on,
Leviticus 23. All right,
yes.
23. Give me 1 second here. And share. We're in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 23. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Yehudah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Yisrael, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall be a solemn rest unto you, a memorial proclaimed with the blast of horns, a holy convocation. You shall do no man of...
Okay, you can finish that out.
You shall do no man of servile work, and you shall bring an offering made by fire unto Yehudah.
Okay, all right there. Now, that's what we passed through, a proclamation. Now, all of them is a proclamation because Mikra Kodesh is actually a holy calling. And when we talk about these particular times, appointed times, use the word Moedim. Moedim itself, Moed means appointed. And it's also used in a sense of season, but it's different from the word Zaman, which means the season itself. Like when you talk about, Koreh for winter, you say Zaman, Koreh for that, for winter. Moed is more of an appointment and that you must show up at. And the root of it is aid, which means a witness, Ayin Dalit, which is being a witness. So we're actually being a witness when we show up on those particular days at the time that the Creator said are His days. But what was interesting that the particular day that we speak on in Leviticus right now, that they observed last week, last Shabbat just passed. It's referred to here in this particular portion, as Yom Teruah. All right, so a memorial of the blowing. But then as we're gonna just move straight over to Numbers, the 29th chapter, in the book of Numbers. I just wanted to, I'm pretty much done with that particular spot right there.
You want me to go to Numbers what?
29 at the top.
Numbers 29 at the top. Numbers chapter 29, verse 1.
Yes.
And in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no manner of servile work. It is a day of blowing the horn unto you.
Okay, all right there. Now, here, they refer to this here, a particular day, and in this particular chapter, as Yom Teruah, which means a day of blowing. It's actually a sound. Teruah is actually a sound. It's a so, and they have different sounds. They have, they have, Teruah, Tekiah, Shabarim, Teruah Kadol. So, that's why you might hear people blow the shofar in various congregations, various spots. Sometimes they say, traditionally they say you got at least hear 100 blasts of the shofar within that particular day. So throughout certain prayers that they do at that particular season, which they refer to as, the beginning of the Pentecost season, and it's horn is used as an alert factor. But the difference I want to focus on is another tradition that they say, that when they say Zikron, when they use the word Zikron as a memorial of the blasting or the blowing of the shofar, which is used in the book of Vayikra, and it's important just to try to follow me as much as possible. Hopefully I do justice and explain it. Right. Is that sometimes it might fall upon a Shabbat. Now we got two horns that is blown regular, and that's in the book of Numbers. So we're just going to go there just a moment, and then we're just going to Numbers the 10th chapter, I believe.
Numbers chapter 10?
Yes, yes.
What verse, Prince?
when we talk about the purpose of the horns, let me just get there for a minute.
It's from the top. It speaks about from verse 2. Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, a beaten
Okay.
work.
All right. Okay. Yeah, but might as well so they could notice the difference. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So I'll start from verse 1.
Yes.
And Yehudah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver, a beaten work shalt thou make them, and they shall be unto
I'll
thee.
wait just a second. All right. Those trumpets are called kazorot. Kazorot is a different word for chauffeur. All right. So what most of us have is a chauffeur, which is a ram horn, which is something I have right over here.
Right.
All right. It could be a ram's horn, it could be a cow's horn, it could be one of them extra long horns for those that might see. So that's what we refer to more so as a chauffeur. All right. But here in Numbers is referred to as kazorot, which is and it will tell you what the fabrics are and the rules behind it. Go ahead, just read that so we get an understanding.
It says, verse 3, and when they shall blow with them, all the congregation shall gather themselves unto thee at the door of the tent of meeting. And if they blow but with one, then the princes, the heads of the thousands of Yisrael, shall gather themselves unto thee. And when you blow an alarm, the camps that lie on the east side shall take their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when you blow an alarm the second time, the camps that lie on the south side shall set forward, and they shall blow an alarm for their journeys. But when the assembly is to be gathered together, ye shall blow, but ye shall not sound an alarm. And the sons of Aaron and the priests shall blow with the trumpets, and they shall be to you for a statute forever throughout your generations.
Keep on.
And when ye go to war in your land against the adversary that oppresseth you, then ye shall sound an alarm with the trumpets, and ye shall be remembered before Yehudah your God, and ye shall be saved from your enemies. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your appointed seasons, and in your new moons, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, and they shall be to you for a memorial before your God. I am Yehudah your God.
Okay, I just need one more verse because I'm going to have to use that part as a reference later.
And it goes, and it shall come to pass in the 2nd year, in the 2nd month, on the 20th day of the month, that the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle of the testimony.
Okay, hold right there. Okay, and that's when they travel. All right, that's enough of that. All right. The reason I had Chief Uzziah read that particular chapter there is because to let you know it's different. That the shofar is much different from that of the trumpets. The trumpets had to be made a certain way on one piece in the silver, and only the Kohanim could blow those. And they blown, and you know, they let you know here, in the chapter of Numbers that they have different sounds to a different alarms, alert, gathering. So, but it don't tell you what all the alarms are, whether it's did it that or do. They don't tell you that. So now, when do you know when it's an alarm? When do you know when it's just for the leaders? And also, you got to be well enough and tuned with your ears to say, well, is it one trumpet blowing or 2 trumpets blowing? And
Right.
then, you know, and you know, and if the trumpets sound alike or do they sound different? And then you got to be in earshot of the trumpets, you know, and then tell you even on your days of your of feast days, you know, appointed seasons. Also, when you're setting forth the travel, and what camps move out, what camps don't, and only blown for 2 sides of the camps to step forward. That's when the eastern camp will pull out, and when the southern camp will pull out. There's no further blow for the rest of the camps to pull out.
Right.
So you know, it's so it's a lot to it that's spoken about, but it don't tell you how to do it.
Right.
And that's and so you say, well, what sound should I make if I'm a Kohen? And it got to be a sound that goes throughout the whole community where everybody know that for generations and generations. So now I'm bringing out a point that there's some things that we do and we practice by rote, by what we heard, but not necessarily. So we pick up certain traditions on our own, but we don't be consistent even with the traditions within our own community.
Right.
That's why we have different congregations might do this, and they might have had the same leader. And then another guy might do something else, but they had the same leader.
You're right.
And they deviate from some of the teachings of their leaders. So now, when you say certain traditions, I'm from Beni Zakim. Our only tradition in Beni Zakim was that don't take what I say, check it out for yourself, and go ahead and get better, and take and expand. That's one of the things that we focus on. Is that because we recognize that each teacher or each leader at the time can only know so much. And we want that to be the ceiling of knowledge in our own congregations. So that's why it's to say we always look for people to go ahead and study more and go out outwardly to bring sources in. So we say something about, if you live in a box, then that means once you live in a box, you never find out what's outside the box. It's like a little joke we used to say years ago, and I'm gonna get back to this thing about the Yom Teruah. That when it was a big rainstorm, flood one day. So this frog, seeing another frog got flushed down the well, but his other frog lived in the well.
Right.
So so the frog was looking all sad that was flushed down the well, and the frog that lived in the well said, "What you so sad about?" Said, "Well, I don't have enough room down here." And so the frog that was born and raised in the well said, "There's plenty of room down here." He said, "No, I come from the sea. It was much bigger than this." He said, "How big?" So he jumped a little bit over, a third of the pond of the well. And he said, "That big?" He said, "No, much bigger." And then he jumped again, did it jump 2/3? He said, "That big?" He said, "No, much bigger." So he jumped from one side of the well to the other side of the well and said, "Is it that big?" And he said, "No, much bigger." So the frog that lived in the well said, "It can't be no place as big as this," because that's all he ever seen.
That's all he ever seen.
So his knowledge was limited to the circumference of the well. Where the one that was washed in there realized, hey, I done lost my stature. And so sometimes we might be in a certain area and we limit our knowledge and live within a tight scope of a box, and just the blowing of the home and the shofar, so sometimes when they say Zikron, Zikron Teruah, some traditions will say sometime it might fall on the Shabbat. So now, if it fell on the Shabbat, certain things we don't do. All right. One, everybody ain't gonna walk all over the place carrying their horn. And the shofar was a ram horn. The priest is doing the blowing. All right, where they going? So certain things they don't try to carry certain burdens out to try to do that. They do it in place wherever they're at. So traditionally they would say sometimes just to remember the blast of the horn, it's good. And then when it don't fall on Shabbat, then you blow and blow several times, because everybody ain't gonna be, near where the priest got those trumpets. Right. So that means you got something scaled down, because there's only 2 silver trumpets for the nation as a whole. Now, I'd like to bring out some other points that when we read in Exodus, those days they talk about, the feast of CHOKMAH. Then you talk about the first fruits, the first harvest, which is now we refer to as Shavuot, and then we talk about later on the feast of ingathering, and you find that in the book of Shemot, and you say, well, why is they referred to more as agricultural festivals as opposed to Pesach? Well, Pesach we know already, because that's when we come out of Egypt. Right. But the other two, as we refer to them now as Shavuot. We refer to this the last one as Sukkot. All right, and we never had no special day for Yom Teruah until in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. All right. So now, so I'm trying to share some perspectives. Before they had the Mishkan, we know when the Mishkan was built. It was in the second year after the departure from Egypt. We know when it was erected. All right. We also know that when we reached Mount Sinai, prior to the Mishkan, which was in the 3rd month.
Right.
And so we also know those things. So those are given in the Tanakh prior.
Right.
All right. We know that when Moses went up and ascended upon the mountain to receive the first set of tablets, we built the golden calf. So now we built this golden calf. And so he broke those first tablets. So now he had to go back and pray 40 days and 40 nights, like unto the first, on behalf of Aharon, the high priest, and also on for the nation of Israel because of the sin of the golden calf.
Right.
All right. Then after that, and that's when he supposed to see the glory of the Most High. Then he supposed to came back down, and he came back down, and because the Creator told him, hew up 2 stones, tablet stones, like unto the first, and he'll write upon it.
Right.
So now he ascends back up. So now when he makes that ascension back up, traditionally they say the month Elul, Yom Teruah. And if we do the math from when Shavuot was last until Yom Teruah, we got basically 110 days. When we get to Yom Kippur, it's like 120.
Right.
120 days. That's just doing the math alone. So another thing I like to bring out in one of the speakings, one viewpoint, is that these names we know in Leviticus it talks about we have the law for the Kohen name and the Kohanim. We talk about sacrifices and all that kind of stuff, right? And the various types of sacrifices.
Right.
Why? Because now we have a Mishkan, which is a year later. All right, so the book is not in order. So a lot of people look at they misconstrue and think that everything in the Tanakh or the Chumash is in a chronological order.
Right.
But the name of Shavuot, which is talking about Feast of Weeks, we got to realize that. Excuse me. You got to realize that in Yom Teruah and the Feast of Weeks that we had nothing to bring up weeks in the desert.
Right. Right.
All right.
Right.
So when the law was given, at the early part, all right, of the so now I'm saying that after the Mishkan was built, all right, and I'm gonna get back to hopefully I don't lose people in that. When the tabernacle was built in the second year after our departure from Egypt, that's when you have all this stuff about the rules and regulations, the sacrifices. All right, that's when you have the names of those particular things, Shavuot and Sukkot. All right, that's when we was almost ready to leave and go into the land, because shortly after that, that's when they sent out the 12 scouts, historically.
Right.
All right, within that second year. All right, so now we got a lot going on that, and I need to paint that kind of picture so that we can understand why those names, because in each one of the days, I say one day, and when we come up to Shalosh Regalim, one is about a redemption, which we refer to as Pesach. One is about sanctification, which we refer to as Shavuot. And when we get down to Sukkot, which will be coming up later on, shortly, that is our rededication. And it's important for me to remember I said rededication, because we got a lot of similarities in the book as well, dealing with that particular time frame.
Right.
All right, so my point in bringing out all that is that Sukkot supposed to be a memorial of our departure from Egypt. And it said, because the Creator caused us to dwell in booths. So now it don't make sense to say we dwelling in booths. You got to remember dwelling in booths when we still dwelling in booths and haven't crossed over, which is be 39 years later.
Right.
So what it is that we got the names of those particular days as the memorial from the departure from Egypt. And one of the things that this will come up again for some of the teachers that will be bringing out around that time of Sukkot, why we don't remember our departure from Egypt in Pesach, during that time of Pesach, when they told you remember that night. Why is it at the end of the season of the Shalosh Regalim that remember our departure from Egypt, because the Creator caused us to dwell in booths? So those are things I'm leaving out there, for people to ponder somewhat. Now, to get back to the observance, there's many ways that people observe. Now, if the day of Yom Teruah, it's always a question whether we should cook if it came on a Shabbat or not. And I'm glad that, Chief Fools and other people, spoke on it, that if it's, and Chief Prince Hezekiah as well, and various other people, that when address that issue, that if we was in the land today without the Kohanim functioning in the place to offer up, we don't do no cooking there. All right.
That's right.
But if the temple was functioning, everything's going like it's supposed to go, you got the priest that's identified as Kohanim. You got an altar that's sanctified and approved by the Creator. All right. Then only what a man could eat, even on the Shabbat, then there would be some roasting and cooking on there, because you ain't burning up a whole bunch of burnt offerings. You have other sacrifices that's done that you had to partake and eat of at that time. And that's why it's always at the place that, the Lord that dwell. So but when that's not functioning, you would have no Kohen that could be identified that his lineage is actually a Kohen line directly, where you have a place, you don't have the place that's set up, where God calls his name to dwell. And one of the things I'm gonna bring out later on in my talk, hopefully I won't be too long, is that even when they returned back during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, when they returned back to Egypt, the second Commonwealth after the Babylonian captivity, that they built the altar before they had the temple set up.
Right.
But those guys identified themselves as being real Kohanim. And they built the altar at the place where it should have been at. And they built the humble altar, not the grandiose altar at the time. And so we be visiting those issues there. So my point in bringing out that some people might do what we're trying to remember also is that Yom Teruah said, what you're trying to remember. And I was asked last time that sometime that when we talk about this day, it's supposed to remind you of Mount Sinai, the trumpets blowing at Mount Sinai. Right. That's one viewpoint. When the Creator came down and the mountain was smoking, and you heard the sounds of the trumpet waxing louder and louder and louder and louder. But they use two terms for that in the book of at that Revelation in the 19th around the 19th chapter. They use one term called the Yovel, when you hear the Yovel, and the other one say when you hear the shofar. All right, we was told when the Yovel cease, we know whatever the case is, then the Yovel, it's never mentioned that we heard it. That's just a bit of trivial. And it's about the shofar, it was different, but they used the word Yovel there, which is the first time we actually see the word Yovel actually used at that Revelation. But we hear it talk about the shofar blasting later on. That's
the book of Exodus chapter 19, right?
No, yes.
Right. But it sounds like you said. It sounds like you said Revelation 19.
No, I said at the Revelations.
At the Revelation. Okay.
I'm gonna slow it down because if you thought that, then probably a lot more people thought that.
Right.
You know, the revelation when the Creator revealed Himself.
Absolutely. I know what you're talking
That's
about.
what I mean.
Yeah.
All right, to be a lot more clear.
Right.
All right. So so at that time, but so that's one viewpoint for that particular day, Yom Teruah, which we passed. Not only is the seventh month, a new moon, which would normally be considered a minor day for the other 6 new moons, but or I should say the other 11 new moons.
Right.
But this one here is the one that is sanctified. So we have like every 6 days, every after the 7th day is a holy convocation, the 7th month holy convocation, 7th year, and then 7 times 7 plus added on the Yobel. All right, so we have all those different things. Now another thing, just to share some insight, is that they're also referred to as the birth of mankind upon the planet. Not the birth of the planet, not how old the earth is, but the birth of Adam, you know, it being 5,781 since Adam was made and created upon the earth, on the planet. So we ain't saying that the earth is not millions of years old, because you read in the book of Bereshit, which you get around to it, that in the beginning God created heavens and earth. And wisdom said I was there even before that. So how long was the beginning? We have no concept of it. How many eons that might have passed between that time and the Creator said it wasn't in the form that He wanted. It was in a state of chaos, confusion. All right, so that's another thing which leave before when Bereshit come around. So why they say that? Because Adam lived long enough to see Lamech, who was Noah's father. Mm-hmm. Noah, got word from his father. So, that he met Adam, the first man that created the earth. Noah lived way past Abraham times and stuff like that, and his son Shem. So with those ages, share. So what I'm bringing out is that somebody's able to tell somebody as an eyewitness that I met somebody and kept a record of time and years. Now, also, when people, we get into the issue about certain, whether it's a new year or not, and because we know it says in the month of Aviv, it's the beginning of our months and the beginning of our years. And I said before that you have a sacred calendar, which is ecclesiastical, which is for us as Israelites to keep and going on. But then you also have, a civil calendar, which the whole planet dealt with and recognized, and at that time of the ancient world. And just to go back just a little bit in reference to that, when the flood came, it said, it gives you the time in Genesis. I think if I just go on the top of my head, first month, 600 years, first year of Noah's life, first 600 years of Noah's life, first month, I think 17th day, something like that of the month. All right, so you say, okay, is that month Aviv, because Moses is telling this story? Or is that the month of antiquity? Now, in the area where they come from, where the ark landed at and reside at, and also from even the Genesis story about the garden and the rivers that's supposed to be parted, one river that parted into 4 heads coming out the garden, let you know in that region around the fall season, you have an inundation within this particular month. So therefore, they look at that also as the first month back then, because now a change of a major season and things. Why they say a change in a major season and things is because now we know Aviv, you're gonna have a season. We have considered 4 seasons. Some people only believe in 2 seasons. That's another story. But so they don't believe in Kais. They don't believe in Aviv. They don't believe. They believe in Aviv, I guess, and they believe in Korefus or winter. but they might not believe in, Qais was, or Stam, which is fall, autumn, or either Qais was summer. They might not think about those things as much as seasons. But we know that he's talking about, springtime and harvest, winter and fall, stuff like that, and cold. So we know that that's why they look at that as the civil year of mankind. Now, before I even have Bruce read another thing, I want to bring out some more points in reference to where I'm coming from about the day, is that now this particular time, like I said earlier, in the month of Elul is when, well, actually, the month before, in month of Elul before, rather, I might have made a mistake when I said here. And the month of Elul, which is the month before, all right, this month just passed, and we get into the month of Ethanim or Tishri, which is 2 names. Now the 2 names, one name we find in the book as for this particular month is Ethanim, but we also find another name that's used within the book. We get different names that's used in the book, for the month. And you say, well, okay, you get a name like Nisan for Aviv. And the reason I'm bringing out these points here is because that when they came from Babylon, they came with the name Nisan. They came with the name, let me just throw out another one right here, Tishri. All right, they came with several names of certain months, when they came from Babylon, out of the country of Babylon, that you could find within the book, within what you consider the prophets of the Second Commonwealth. And when those names came out, and you say, okay, are they heathen names? Are they idolatrous names? Well, the guys that use them, like Ezra, the priest, already scribing the law. Guys of that period, Nehemiah, all right, who was communicated by the Creator. Guys like Zechariah, those guys there of that period in time. All right, so now, if we talk about these guys, that's unique, that has some closeness with the Creator, then those names are, it's not the same, it's the exact same as the Babylonian, but meaning. You can take certain meanings within and out of a name. And that's what they have. And I remember years ago, when Shema was burnt out and we was teaching over Prince Paul's house, I was sharing some information about the months and the calendars, about how they changed the pronunciation of the name. But you'll find the name of Bull in the Book of Kings, which means stamp for the 8th month. So you basically only find 4 months prior to the Babylonian exile with names. Everything else is given numbers. And then you'll find during the Babylonian exile and after certain names, that came from for certain months. All right, like Keslev, we got that name also. That's you hear about that after the during the Babylonian period. All right, so my other point I want to bring us down, Tashlich. All right, which is while we making preparation on this particular time, the month of Yom Teruah. All right, and the month of Teruah, as we get ready, that some people might say, okay, I'm gonna cast myself. Some might go to the body of water, whether it's a creek, stream, river, that kind of stuff. That's okay if that's what you're into. That's okay. It's not a violation. And I'm gonna show you some things too, because sometimes you might enhance a service or give you something as a crutch to a service, but that's not necessary. Something that's commanded directly by the Creator. All right. So, and just like we say, well, the Shemitah year, and I spoke on it before. Shemitah year, you say it's strange that the Shemitah year start in the 7th month, and we're talking about a whole year. And we're talking about from the 10th of the 7th month. And why at the 10th of the 7th month? And then just to go just a little bit off is that when we talk about the time of Sukkot, and we talk about later on when the final return, that all nations got to come up to the house of the Lord and worship. It's at a time when no harvest is being done. If you have a year of release, that means you're no longer plowing your field by the time of the 7th month showed up. You finished already.
Right.
All right. You finish in the month of Elul, all your harvest, everything, your ingathering, all that's is done already. So that when you do have a Shemitah year, or when you do have the Yovel year, all right, you ain't got any work you doing even on a regular yearly basis from that time, because your harvest should have been finished. And that's why even when they declare the first Shemitah year, which would be on the 10th of the 7th month, of that day, and it says in the beginning of the Shemitah year, all right, you ain't gonna plow that whole year. So what good is me getting my land back if I have nothing to live off of? So we got to look at the Torah about the, in reference to, you get 3 years of, in the 6th year that carry you over to the 7th, 8th, and the 9th. So the Creator works, wondrous ways for us when we follow his Torah. And so saying that if we keep a record of time for sabbatical year, and we find that we read that in the book of Ezekiel, different times when we talk about the 25th year of this captivity, it's dealing with the Yobel. The Yobel was kept, and they got records that it was kept way back then before the exile. All right, before the exile into Babylon, it was kept in the land of, in the land of Israel. All right, after the exile, it was different. Some still kept it, but it wasn't different of opinions in reference to that. But that's why when we go through Yom Kippur and we atone for our sins and we looking for a whole slate, we look at that as a beginning, a new beginning for us. All right, we starting off another year with a clean, a less burdened slate. We starting off another year with. So we should be, enthused in that. So when people say, Lashana Tovah, a good year, or be inscribed in the book of life, for a good year, then you don't want 7 months of it. And you ain't talking about the year didn't get here yet. So you got to realize that Israel's the last nation on the planet. So I expect a lot, people to come back in reference to that. But I like to bring out this point. When we go through the Haftorah, when we go through the reading of the Sidra every week. Now the reading of the Sidra only started from a rabbinical point of view, and it's traced it back to Babylon. You don't have no commandment in the book, in the Tanakh, that says you must read the Sidra every week, as a part of your service. It's nothing there like that. But a lot of us adopt that. All right, we also know, we always talk about historical stuff about the time. We might even talk about the book of Esther, the Purim story. There's no command from the Creator saying you do that. It's something that they elected to do and observe the season of Purim because of what happened. When we deal with Hanukkah, dedications, it was nothing the Creator said that we must do. It's something that we elected to do. So now, when we're teaching, and let me see, I'm just going to fast forward because I think I'm spending a little bit long time, longer than I expected. But this is a pretty broad subject in reference to Yom Teruah. That we know that and we're in the height of our spiritual awareness at this particular time, as we get ready to approach Yom Kippur. But one of the things is that I like to bring out is that when we're approaching Yom Kippur, a lot of people refer to it like if you did something to somebody, offended somebody, some people might look at that and say, hey, you offended somebody. Well, sometimes you don't know if you offend people, simply because what you say, you ain't attacking them, but you don't know that they took it as an offense. Because sometimes when you're teaching Torah, sometimes Torah will might step on your toes as well as other people's toes. You don't know anything about their lifestyle. So when you start to speak on the Torah and explain and certain insights, the negatives and the positive, then you could be offensive to some people, or sometimes you might come out a little brutish on some issues in some people, or it might be a rebuke that's unseemly. So the thing is that you don't never have to apologize for telling the truth. You only got to apologize if you was offending an individual in your rebuke. And then you only could apologize to the individual, because the Creator do not forgive you as an individual for something you did to the next individual. He deals with the authority of forgiving you for what you did and transgress against him. Now, if you did wrong to the next individual, yeah, you're gonna have to be held accountable. But you did wrong not only to the individual, but to the Creator. But you just can't apologize for the wrong you did to the individual, to the Creator. You gotta apologize to the individual first. And then you come to the Creator about, all right, now I got some personal, things that, that's really between me and you. So, and the thing is that,
this question?
Yes.
All right, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
that's right.
Isn't it somewhat a confusing message to people, new people, that if we're saying Shana Tova during Yom Teruah, right, and they can't find that in the Torah, to where this is a new year. The 7th month is a new year, when the Most High God indicates that Abib shall be to you the beginning of months. Now, if we could find that in the Torah, where the Most High God says that the 7th month is also a new year, then that will be fine. But I think the confusion comes in is we saying Lashana Tova, but the Most High, but we understand this to be the 7th month. Even from the book of Leviticus chapter 23, when it says on the 7th month, on the first day of the month, it should be a day of blowing of the horn, right?
Okay.
Or the blowing, right. Or the day of the blowing. So don't you think that would be more of a confusing thing? Because people are going to say, it says it's the 7th month, so how is it? It's not a beginning because it's the 7th.
Okay. Now, I said earlier about you had to say ecclesiastical calendar, which is your sacred calendar, and you had the civil calendar. All right, let's go to the book of Ezekiel just for a moment, the 40th chapter.
Ezekiel, the 40th chapter.
Yes.
Verse 1?
Yes. I got that over here, I think. This other book. Yeah, that's verse 1. All right, I'll read the English and you got the Hebrew. Help me out, just because there's only going to be one verse.
So you want me to read it in Hebrew?
That's one part. I'll let you know. All right, just one verse. We're going to do one verse. So that ain't going to be too hard, is it?
All right, no problem.
Okay. All right, so anyway.
It says,
all right, I got the English. All right. All right. In the 5 and 20th year of our captivity. All right, 5 and 20, 25th year of the captivity.
Right.
In the beginning of the year.
Right.
All right. It said, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after that, the city was smitten. In the self same day, the hand of the Lord was upon me, and He brought me thither. So now, all I want you to do is just read the first part, and then stop at when it gets to the month. I'll tell you. I'll stop you.
All right. Be'esrim Kamesh Shana Legalutenu.
Okay. All right. About captivity.
Berosh Hashana.
Yeah, Berosh. Okay, Berosh Shana. All right. What it says?
Berosh Hashana.
All right. That's what it says. Berosh Hashana.
Right.
All right, that's what it said, Rosh Hashanah. I had to get all up in there, you know. I hate to do that when I'm on the screen. All right, Rosh Hashanah. Okay. All right, that's all. That's what I'm gonna bring out. All right, you can just stop there.
Okay.
All right. Now, it says in the 10th day of the month. Then I explain. All right, in the 10th day of the month. All right, and talking about that, I already explained about the Shemitah. I already explained about the Yobel going on there. We know earlier, a few chapters he talks about the 12th month in the book of Ezekiel. A few chapters ahead. All right. Also, the time frame. He's not referenced to that. The thing was that when I mentioned earlier about the memorial, the departure from Egypt, and I mentioned about dedications, which I'm gonna hit a couple of spots with that as well. Hopefully, don't take too long. I won't take too long. Is that we know automatically that when Solomon built the first temple, which we talk about dedication. What we do is rededicating ourselves to the Creator at this particular time. In this particular time, we start supposed to do a new beginning. That's when the servants get a new beginning. So now, Rosh Hashanah is not all the time. It has not only a metaphysical meaning, but also a physical, a literal meaning in that sense. And when they talk about the month of Abib, on the 10th day, it wouldn't be the same, because Abib, we was redeemed, not necessarily because we qualified for redemption, other than from the agreement that the Creator had with the patriarchs. So when the Creator had an agreement with the patriarchs, that his covenant there, that's when we got left out of Egypt. We were sanctified at Sinai, because we're supposed to be sanctified to know that believe in God and Moshe, and that God had sent Moshe to get them. All right, we messed up in between that time. All right, Yom Kippur comes about simply because of the day for us to make a change and atonement. All right, that's how you get a sort of like a schematics of that time frame when I talk about Leviticus and the names of those days and when all this will happen. All right. So then we have Yom Kippur being one of the things that's heralding, even before you talk about that's being participated in before even we get to the second year, because that's when the Moses came down in the second tablet, his face shown. Then it never shown in the first, never shown in the second time up, but in the third time on the mountain when he came down with the tablets, it's the only time Moshe face shown. All right, a new beginning, a new revelation, which would be on Yom Kippur when he gets here. All right, Ezekiel having this vision in, talking about what we did wrong at that particular time. Now, if we go and do the chronological tracking of when the temple was destroyed, we know it was destroyed within the 5th month. We know that was done within the 5th month. We know Ezekiel was in the captives prior to the destruction of the temple. But you know how long he was there from this verse. It's been some years there. So I want to go just a couple more. I'll just leave that to ponder, because I know I don't want to be too long. But people get back at me with different questions if they have. Because like I said, it's not necessarily a D.C.B. view. I'm just sharing information, giving different perspectives on it.
I get it. I just wanted to throw some of the things that might be thrown at you, and so you could go along and we don't get caught up. I also had a question on Tashlik, but I don't.
All right, Tashlik. Now the thing is that they take it from a Mikal casting, so people add flavor. It's like when you read in the book of Daniel, it said he rose and faced Jerusalem and prayed 3 times a day. All right. You don't read nowhere in the book where they tell you how many times to pray. All right. And some people would barely pray once a day. But you could pray 10 times a day. All right. But you read Daniel's prescription, what he did, when he prayed and faced Jerusalem, and prayed 3 times a day. So, I mean, we could say that's not in the book, and then rabbinically they try to say, well, okay, they're associated later on with the 3 patriarchs, with Abraham, with Yitzchak, and with Yaakov. But and then they associate. But when you read about the Suah, which was what Yitzchak did at the evening time, meditating with the word sikah, which means a conversation. He's the only one we read about that actually has some words at the evening tide during this meditation. All right. So I'm just saying that you have other things where people might enhance certain things. And I'm gonna bring out some other things in reference to that before I finish. So we're just going to while we at it and flipping a few pages. I want to go right quick to the Book of Kings, First Kings.
First Kings.
Yes. Just sixth chapter, first verse.
Sixth chapter, first verse.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring out some scripture points, and then I'll be finished. I got a few about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7, 8 scriptural points I'm gonna bring out.
All right, First Kings chapter 6, verse 1. And it
Okay.
came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month Ziv, which is the
right
second month.
All right, that's a name that we got there. We don't know where it came. We know Solomon came up with that. That's before the captivity, but that's the second month. Then sometimes referred to the second month in the wilderness as YAH. So now, that's the question. Is the second month we could maintain it, call it YAH, or we could consider it Ziv? But, and this is from the wisest man that ever lived. But we I want to move on just a little bit and bring out some things while we over in that chapter. All right. Let's go into the book of I'm gonna keep you there since you'll be turning a little faster than me. All right. Let's go to 8th chapter and the first verse of Kings.
First Kings chapter 8, verse 1. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Yisrael and all the heads of the tribes, the princes of the fathers' houses of the children of Yisrael, unto King Shalom in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yehudah out of the city of David, which is in Zion. And all the men of Yisrael assembled themselves unto King Shalom at the feast in the month Etanim, which is the 7th month.
Okay, all right. All right. He said at the feast in the month Etanim, right? Which is the 7th month. That's where we find the 7th month there in that particular spot.
Right.
All right. Let me just get some other spots here. All right. And I want to before we go any further here, I want to bring out also what I neglected to bring out too, but I guess I get to it before it ends. All right. I want to go down about a day I left out, the fast days, which I'm gonna talk about later on, which is 4 fasts that they do. Because a lot of times we talk about the fast at Gadoliah. Matter of fact, I do it this way. I do a little bit reversal. All right. We know that the month of Adar, the 12th month, we get that from after the Persian period. The month of Adar, we never heard of that before. That's the name of the 12th month. All right. We're gonna go to just read just a little bit about the fast days, and then I'll just finish up on one thing. All right, we're gonna go to the book of let's go to Ezra. Let me see. I want to go ahead and get the book of Ezra up here right quick.
Ezra, what chapter?
All right, one moment. Let me get over there. I think I marked it off. So I went too far. Let's see. There's a couple points. I know I wrote it down. Oh, better yet, before we get done. Let's see, I'm trying to go to Ezra. Let me see. Let me just get there a second. All right. While we doing that, we just go straight to Nehemiah. We're going to the book of Nehemiah. Excuse me. We do it from there. book of Nehemiah. We started the seventh chapter of Nehemiah. Zechariah, right? Sorry, seventh chapter of Zechariah. Seventh chapter of Zechariah. That's what we're dealing with.
Zechariah, chapter 7.
Yeah. All right. It's from the top. I got it from the top. I got it from here.
All right.
All right. All right. And then after that, you can find Nehemiah 8. Go there.
Nehemiah
All right.
8. So you're gonna read Zechariah.
Yeah, I got Zechariah.
All right. Nehemiah.
All right.
8.
And it came to pass in the 4th year of the king of Darius that the word of the Lord came unto Zechariah in the 4th day of the 9th month, even in Kislev. That's the name they gave that 9th month. All right. When Beth Zechariah and Reclamah was there. So that month we find here. But I'm gonna skip on down to the 8th verse. I'm skipping on down to the 5th verse, and I'm here. And it says, the 4th verse rather. Then came the word of the Lord of hosts unto me, saying, speak unto all the people of the land, and to the priests, saying, when ye fasted and mourned in the 5th month, in the 5th and in the 7th month, even these 70 years did ye at all fast unto me, even to me? All right. And when you and when ye eat and when ye drink, are ye not they that eat and they that drink? All right. So now, what we have here that most people neglect is that we had started a fast that we've been doing for 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
From the time of the destruction of the temple, from when those that read in the book of Zechariah. All right. And so that means that's when these fasts was instituted. Now, let's go into the 8th chapter of that same book of Zechariah. All right, and we're gonna go into the 18th verse, and it says, "And the word of the Lord of hosts came unto me, saying, thus said the Lord of hosts, the fast of the 4th month." What fast is that? The fast of the 5th month. What fast is that? The fast of the 7th month. What fast is that? It definitely ain't talking about Yom Kippur.
Right.
All right. And the fast of the 10th month shall be to the house of Yehudah joy and gladness, cheerful seasons. Therefore love ye truth and peace. All right. Thus said the Lord of hosts. It shall yet come to pass that there shall come to people. All right. Let's move over here. And inhabitants of many cities. All right. So now, what are those 4 fasts that's mentioned? They got to start on date. And the reason I'm bringing these points out is that people start things of our own people, and these are guys that actually communicate with the Creator, because it said the Lord of hosts speaking to them.
Right.
So this is the same crew that's with Ezra, the same crew that was with Nehemiah, it's that same crew with Zerubbabel and with Yehoshua, the priest. And they had instituted something that only was going on since the siege of Jerusalem, the 4th month, and the 10th month when the Babylonians break the wall. The 4th month is just when they enter lay siege, and then they talk about the 7th month. So the 3 months, 3 of the fasts is dealing with the siege of Jerusalem, 3 of them. The 4th month, the 5th month was when it was destroyed, but it was destroyed directly after 21 days later. It was destroyed. The siege was set in the 10th month, which is
I don't think that people have a
problem. That's what I'm bringing a point.
Go ahead.
That's
the
point.
Go ahead.
All right. So now, those are things that was instituted by us,
Absolutely.
by people.
Right.
That became a question so much to the prophet that the Creator even addressed that, and he never told him to stop. That's my point. He didn't say go. He didn't say stop. He just said in the future. So my point is, in the future, if it's going to be for days of joy and gladness, how could you know this is the day of the joy and gladness unless you remember what fast it was? So that's the point I'm bringing out. You can only remember the days of joy and gladness if you remember what day certain things happen.
Right.
that you set it up for yourself as a
Right.
memorial. And you know, just like some people have an anniversary that we've been here so long, our congregation been here this time and that time.
Right.
All right. That's so sometimes in tragic in their life. You know, I mean, they have a memorial service for somebody that had passed. So those are things that's you know, I mean, it's not commanded, but these are things that we adopt and do. So now let's go back into the fast of the 7th month. And I said it's definitely not Yom Kippur.
Right.
And that's dealing with Gadaliah, just to save time, because I know I was here for quite a bit. It's to save time.
But it's good. We building.
Yeah, but I don't want to, you know, do
I
it
know
like
what you're
that.
saying. I know what
Yeah.
you're saying.
All right. So I'm gonna just have to tell people to do the research and get back to me, and if any questions, come back later. But the fast of Gadaliah, himself, he was the last governor that was set up there by the captain and erected by Nebuchadnezzar and his captain to be over Jerusalem, you know, after the destruction of the temple. All right. But he was murdered. And he actually was murdered on a Rosh Chodesh, according to tradition, on the beginning of Yom Teruah. But since you don't want to have a memorial service for a guy that died on the day of a you know, I mean, a feast day, you know, a day of a holy calling, so they push it back. So normally, that's why you will find some people will actually, you know, since Rosh Chodesh is a new moon, they might observe, even in Israel today. Yeah, that's the only day they do an extra day where they observe it 2 days because of the Rosh Chodesh, which you find basis of that in the book of Shemuel. So they push it back from that day to the 3rd day of the month, which is the month of the 7th month, which is that particular time. And that's why they refer to as the fast. And if we need even more technical stuff involved, Yom Kippur, don't use the word fast. That's what we adopted and use. But since we adopt and use it as a means of afflicting our soul, because the word afflict is different from the word zom. And so this is actually called that, and we also know how long they was doing that. So on the last thing I want to just to fast forward, and I know I'm a little choppy now because I'm trying to speed it up. Is that when you talk about the time of dedications, all right? When King Solomon, when he dedicated the temple, he had 7 days of dedication. And tell you when it was built in the 7th. It was done and finished in the 7th month. And they tell you what time. He had 7 days of dedication, and he had 7 days, you know, I mean, of feasting. So the 7 days of dedication, you know, which basically, you know, and then he going straight to the feast. That means that he came straight from the period of the month of, you know, I mean, he went straight through Yom Kippur. No observance on Yom Kippur on that time. Could tell you when it ended, which was the 23rd of the 7th month. So he figured 14 days in the, you know, in the 15th day, you know, he let everybody go after that, you know, as they say, Shemitah Azeret. So that the dedication was so important that it brings out another dimension, that we dedicating something to the Creator, so we're in a state of holiness all this time. From the time the 7th month got here, and the building of the temple, and the Creator spirit cloud came down, you know, and consumed the sacrifice that Solomon had at that particular time. That was actually, you know, I mean, a great sight where we know that the people was forgiven, and they continue on feasting after the dedication of the temple. You know, then they observed the feast of Sukkot, but they didn't necessarily dwelling in booths at that time. But they observed the feast of Sukkot, and then they left on that particular time. Another thing I like to bring out too, when Hezekiah had the King Hezekiah was trying to restore the temple, his dedication took, you know, 8 days. When we talk about the time of Hanukkah, and you say, well, why does he say it's a Hanukkah, which means to dedicate? That's why you read about David's Psalm, the 30th Psalm, which, you know, he had a psalm dedicated to the house of the Creator, and yet the Creator, a house, the temple was not built at that time. So when we look at the Hanukkah story, why Hanukkah is observed, and they call it the Feast of Dedications. It's because at the time of Sukkot, they wasn't able to get to the temple.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a delay because they fighting and getting everything together and stuff like that. So by the time they was able to get it, they called it the Feast of Dedication, like that of King Hezekiah, you know, and like that similar to Solomon did, because they wasn't able to keep the Feast of Sukkot at that particular time, which is actually our time of rededication to the Creator. And, you know, because we become the people that He wants us to be with less sin on our back. Another thing I like to bring out too is, before I forget, in here, just speeding up just a little bit, is that, oh man, just trying to skip so much. All right, on my thoughts. All right, but well, I guess I have to bring it out next time, but you know, I don't bring it out this time, during Yom Kippur. But so another thing is that we institute things in our life as Israelites, and one of the things, you know, that really kind of irks me sometimes, you know, is when they say that's Jewish, that's the white folks, and this and that and the other. Instead of saying we didn't have our own creativity, we didn't add our own, you know, I mean, things with a flavor that we put into stuff, and that's, you know, I mean, and that's being naive to certain knowledge outside, because when we read about the destruction of the temple, we don't have no Israelite source for it. All we have is outside source. Mm-hmm. When we read about the Hanukkah story, outside source, no real Israelite source that we say. All right, the closest source we got anything going down with the temple that we somewhat give flavor to is Flavius Josephus. You know, and so that's what I'm saying, that when we need to, you know, broaden our scope and horizon. And then there's another thing that was instituted in the book of Ezra when he brought out the book of the law, and I like to focus on that as well. Just bring out another point. When they said when he raised the book, raised up the scroll in front of everybody, and they stood up. Where'd that come from? And in the synagogues, most people, when they raise the Torah scroll, they stand up. They call that Habad in most, you know, in rabbinic circles. They raise it, and one of the point of raising it is to show people, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm reading out a book that you could see, whether you could read Hebrew or not, because most of them spoke in Ashdod and Aramaic. That's why you had those interpreters on both sides. So you have a custom that was there, made of poplar wood, and he had the interpreters on busting down and expounding on both sides. And when he raised it, they stood up out of respect for the law. And then the next day, they said the men came back and to get further understanding of the law and the Torah. But the first day, all the people was there. So you got certain traditions that's in the book that's not commanded by its creator. It was never commanded to stand up when the Torah was raised. We just felt that there was a necessity to show respect. So you have a lot of idiosyncrasies in our life that we adopt. You know, some places they stand up through the whole thing when the guy's making an aliyah up to the read portions of the book, and they say out of respect. And they taking it from Ezra, but they ain't taking it from the law. You know, where it's a command. And so those things here are being more enlightened about what you do and what is custom. Now, I ain't talking about no spinning no turkey or no chicken over your head and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother story. All right, that's, you know, that's, you know, frowned upon as paganistic. But I'm saying some things that's laudable, like whether you pray 3 times a day or you pray twice a day, or you pray 7 times a day, or you fast, you know what I mean, in the 4th month, the 5th month, the 7th month, and the 10th month. You know, I do those fasts, you know, but it's not mandatory. I do it out of patriotism so I can remember those days and remember what happened on those days. I hope I got it. I did somewhat justice to, you know, elaborating on Yom Teruah and about different men cults, which customs, and I hope it'll alleviate some phobias and fears of studying and getting it for yourself. I'm not looking for people to follow my views. I'm not trying to convince you, other than to study and look and research for yourself why certain things are done, why we do certain things. Because all our information we ever got, most of the prayer books we got. Now, I don't care if a person say he wrote their own prayer book. You know, most times, they would say, well, you know, he followed a certain pattern. Whose pattern? And that's it. And I say it that way instead of saying some things were plagiarized. And that's being truthful and real about certain things. All right. So any mistakes been my own. Any questions, my view, the views that I shared, not necessarily may not be D.C.B view, but so you could direct them to me, whether send it to Chief Woods and he'll write it down or whatever the case is and get back to me. And I know I was a little choppy on it, trying to condense so much in this long period of time. So with that, I hope I say Shalom Aleichem. I hope everybody have a good Shabbat. And I'm supposed to be sharing with the Book of Jonah, which should be less controversial on the Yom Kippur for D.C.B channel than this. But everybody, and I like to say, have a good fast, as I'm told. I never like to say an easy fast, but a good fast, because you wanted to accomplish the goal that you set for yourself.
That's right.
And with that, and a good Shabbat. With that, I say Shabbat Shalom to everybody
Shabbat
early.
Shalom. May the Most High God bless you, Prince. We're gonna talk in the background. Shalom.
You can do it. I don't have a problem with it being open if necessary.
Yeah, hallelujah. I'll talk to you. Shalom,
okay.
Shalom, Nasik. May the Most High God bless you.
Okay, Asher.